Hey, it's the Chubby Bartender Podcast with your host, Jason Gillum and Chad Reynolds. With a special guest each week. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Hey, we're back.
Here we are.
Another one with the main man.
Yes.
I mean, his name's been brought up now for the last 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Except from Doug Hughes, he threw out that classless list that he did with the goats.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even on it.
That wasn't on it.
I mean, that's what Doug. You got to do better.
Yeah, well, and him nor his brother.
Nor his
were on
brother.
that list.
And I always, Kenny knows this, but I always like to give Kenny a hard time about Randy Ridge. And Randy wasn't on that list.
No.
And my question is, who's Doug Hughes?
You probably don't know Doug, do you?
I have no idea.
He is, you probably know his dad, Brennan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brennan. I played music with Brennan.
Yeah. So
Years ago.
Doug, I don't know how old Doug is.
Doug's my age. He graduated in 1992.
Okay.
And he is just like a local sports historian.
Yes.
Well, Garrett,
he's pretty.
He's on it.
He's pretty well on it.
I was getting ready to say his dad definitely wasn't an athlete, so I mean he hopefully had some kind of background before he could speak on.
Well,
who's
his
a good athlete
kids
and who's not.
Yeah, his kids are in there, and he's going off overall statistics.
Yeah.
So he's.
Yeah.
But like I feel like his list stopped at the 80s.
Well, yeah, you got to think. Doug's my age, so I can go back. I remember Al Collins playing.
Yeah.
The Munn family with your local McDonald's of Jackson, Wellston, Oak Hill, and MacArthur. Need I say more than pull in, get the app open, and pull in spot number 5, and let's go for number 6. And guys like that. But
I remember Al playing.
That's kind of where my timeline starts. Is like with. Early like Mark Finnick and
You guys are
Collins,
youngsters.
guys like-
Yeah, you guys are youngsters.
So you graduated from Jackson. Then we'll tell everybody why we're here, but we're we're going to tune in after this. So by the time this airs, this will already be the Facebook will be over. But we're going to talk about growing up in the. So you grew up in the 70s? Would you say 70s or 60s?
60s and 70s.
60s and 70s. So you graduated from Jackson in 73?
73,
Okay.
1973.
I did my homework, but
I went to Jackson Elementary in grades 1 through 8.
Jackson E.
Jackson E, and then we transferred into of course, to Jackson High School, and that's the difference because we weren't welcome coming from Jackson High School, Jackson Elementary in there because it was just. I don't know. The city kids didn't want to welcome us.
Dad said the same
things
thing
like
about
that.
country
It was
kids.
terrible about that.
Yeah.
So you had to get up and do your thing and stuff, and
You had to prove it, didn't you?
you had to prove it. But
So-
that wasn't a big problem though.
No. I mean, none of the Valentines had a big problem. But I mean, we talked about it before the show. But I mean, how was it? You talked about coming to town, in high school as a country kid, let alone a black guy.
Well, see, we went. When you was at Jackson High School, I can remember every one of my teachers from Jackson Elementary, not Jackson High School, but Jackson Elementary, and 2 very influential people in my life at that point in time was a man by the name of George Wastier, who taught in here, and another man by the name of Kermit Game.
I've heard the name.
But
Kermit Game.
Kermit was the principal out there. Kermit was the one that basically, because the only thing we played for a long time was fast pitch softball. That's what we played at Jackson Elementary, and we were dominant in fast pitch softball.
Say
in
we.
later years.
We mean.
Well, my brother pitched. My brother Coy David pitched nationally.
Coy's dad's age.
Yeah, Coy David, and of course he never played. He never played football because he got a raw deal in football. It was a different times. You didn't. There were certain things that we didn't get the opportunity to do
Because you're black.
Yeah, and people can, like I said, people don't really understand until you have a tendency to walk in the shoes. But it was different coming from Jackson Elementary to Jackson High School because we had lived around each other, the Gillums, the Valentines, the Cosbys. We were all there. And then we come to the high school, and we were the Hicks, so to speak, and. But we had some pretty good athletes out there, but a lot of them didn't stay with it because, the trips we had to take back and forth.
Man, that alone would have been tough.
Well, it was tough for me, and that's the reason in high school it was very tough for me because you would be between practices, and sometimes we would have to leave practice to go to work because my father worked in Paperwood.
Okay,
and that was how we lived.
He's a logger.
He was a logger because he lost his hand in a corn picker when I was like 6 years old.
Okay.
And he worked at the VA. He was a veteran. When he lost his hand, he was a truck driver. But yeah, so we would have to go come in, practice in the morning. Dad would pick us up after practice sometimes. Then we'd go cut wood and come back for the second practice. That's just how it was.
Yeah.
And we had to do that continuously up through me and Darwin. We did it up to me and Darwin. Darwin was a senior, and I was a freshman when Darwin was a senior. So the big shout out was and then we were in town. There wasn't really a lot of places for us to go. I mean, we didn't have a whole lot of money and things like that. And that's the reason I want to give a shout out right now to my two guys, my lady that was Mrs. Martha Murphy, Danny and John Murphy's mother.
Yeah.
She welcomed us into her home. She brought us up there. We could go up there during the breaks, eat. She welcomed us. She was always just first class to us, and there wasn't very many places we could go. That's the thing. And
is this primarily because you're black?
Oh yeah, it's Jackson.
Yeah, I was born in '81.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've definitely seen that side as far as I've seen people's behavior, but I can't say that I've ever seen the day where people really weren't allowed to go places.
Well, there's still a lot of places that I just don't go because I had a thing with a friend of mine a long time ago. I said this was both of us our hometown, and I told him. Had a bet with him, and I won't mention his name, but I had a bet with him a long time ago. I said, my wife and I'm interracially married, my high school sweetheart, and love her to death. And I told him, I said, we can't go to a bar here in my own hometown. People know me without some compliment being some type of offensive name being said. So I said, I just won't go. He said, oh, ain't nothing going to happen. So I proved a point. I said, I can come down here, and I said, I guarantee we won't be in the bar 20 minutes, and somebody will make a comment. But I said, I can take you to a juke joint where you'll probably be the only black guy, white dude in the bar, and I guarantee you nobody will say anything to you. He said, oh, I don't believe that. And I said, well, prove the point. We went to one of the bars one night as you go out of town here, Bridge Inn, to hear his band.
Yeah.
Wasn't sitting in the bar for 10 minutes, and he was so mad. He was ready to kill this guy, that made a comment. And I told him, I said, no. And the sad thing was, this was the joke about it, Pudge, when we talk about it. We think back of that. When I left the bar that night, my wife and I left the bar that night, I said, I'm going to watch a set. And I said, then I'm out of here. I said, I didn't come here anyway. I said, the only reason I'm in here is to hear you. And a friend of ours used to be, not a friend of mine, but I went to school with him. He was older than me. It was Gary Murray. It was Gary Murray's bar at the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I left, I told this friend of mine, who was probably my best friend out of Jackson, Roger Rippeth. Pumpkin Rippeth. Me and Pumpkin's been friends ever since we were this tall. And I was like, I said, as far as I'm concerned, I said, I'll never step foot back in this bar. I said, this damn bar can burn down tomorrow. Yeah. So, my wife and I, we go on home.
Yeah.
Long story short, this is what was crazy. Roger calls me the next morning. He goes, Kenny, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean what I'm doing? I said, I'm in bed, man. I said, and I talked about it. I said, I told you about your club, man. I said, that's the reason I don't go to these places, man. I said, if I don't have to, there's no reason. If I can avoid a conflict, I'm going to.
Sure.
So the thing is, he goes, well, where'd you go when you left the bar last night? I said, hell, I went home. What do you mean where I went? I said, and he goes, well, the damn bar burnt down. I said, you're kidding me. He goes, no. He said, the bar burnt down. And he said, and you sat right there talking to me and Gary and said, I wouldn't give a shit if you walked out of here tonight. And I said, if this damn thing burnt down, then the damn bar burnt down.
I think they very well know who did that.
And I was like, well, I said, there ain't nothing lost. I said, they probably got some type of insurance or something. I said, did anybody get hurt?
Yeah.
And he said, no. I said, did you get your equipment out? He goes, oh, yeah, I got my equipment out. If it had been the night before, though, his equipment would have been in the bar.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I said, but I was like, waiting on the Jackson County Police to come to my house.
Kenny, can you step outside a second? You need to
We'd like to talk to you about a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would have been in the late 90s. So I mean,
it was crazy.
So people were still giving you like they were.
Oh, it's just that's always. I mean, whenever we played a Wellston Waverly football game, it was two of the worst games you could play because you always had that going on.
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
And
Why did you tune it out? Play it.
that was the thing. I could tune it out playing if I would have been on the defensive side of the ball my junior and senior year, just like I was talking to Chad earlier.
Yeah.
Because we had the new coach that was hired after Coach Buckles left. Believed in platooning, and I only played one side of the ball.
Okay.
And so that was the thing, and I just always had an issue with that, and of course,
Who was that?
to coaches some days. It was the coach after Buckles.
Coach after Buckles. I'm trying to think of.
I don't know. I
can't remember.
Coach Finnick.
Finnick. Oh, yeah,
okay.
Ron.
Okay,
Ron
yeah,
Finnick.
okay.
Okay, yeah.
And and I felt I was probably the best athlete on the team, but I couldn't play on the defense side of the ball.
Yeah.
So so to him, by causing that discussion, then I was an attitude problem.
Yeah.
And and you can check with Mr. Coyne, Mr. Bevins, any one of them. I was never an attitude problem. I was a good student. I come out of Jackson High School with a 3.5 GPA.
Went to Central.
Could have went wherever I wanted to, but I ended up going to Central because I didn't really want to play college football because my last 2 years it sort of soured me on it, so to speak.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, Central State had asked my brother because Darvin was playing up there, and Coach Walker, he said, your little brother hadn't signed with anybody, has he? And Darvin goes, no, he said he hadn't. He said, I don't think he's going. He said, Coach Walker had one more scholarship. I'll never forget that night. So, and I stayed way out in Lee Hollow Road, way out on the hill in Lee Hollow Road. And Punkin was coming out that night. Me and Punkin was going to hang out, because we were rebels because we hang out with the musicians, so that, and they thought
That was probably a big thing too. I mean,
well, musicians, but they always thought we were heads, and stuff like that. And, people can think whatever they want to.
They're going to.
I really didn't care. They're going to anyway.
Right.
So, but that was the thing. So Roger had came out because me and him, he came out to the country and picked me up, and me and him was headed to Athens. And my dad goes, we just got a phone call. I said, for what? He said, Coach Walker. And I said, Coach Walker? He said, yeah, from Central State. He said, he's on his way down here. And I said, for what? He said, he's got a national letter of intent. And he said, you're going somewhere. He said, I don't care where you go, but he said, you're going somewhere. And then, because I really thought about going to the military, but at that point in time, it was Vietnam.
oh yeah.
Excuse me. And I had two brothers that went in the military. And my older two brothers, when they came out, they told me, no, you don't want to go to the military. They told me that. They said, no, the military ain't what it's cut out to be. They said, it's as bad in the military as it is anywhere and stuff. So my dad told me and Roger was leaving, and Punkin come out, and he goes, well, he's not going anywhere right now. And I said, what do you mean I ain't going anywhere? I said, we were leaving. And he goes, no. He said, you got Coach Walker here. So about an hour and a half hour later, Coach Walker pulls in and has a letter of intent. And Friday night I signed a letter of intent. Sunday night I reported to camp, and
Hey, have you ever heard of AP Prep? Look them up at apprep.info. If you want to earn the day and be your best you, they got boxing classes, they got individual classes for your kids. So look those guys up at apprep.info in Chillicothe, Ohio. You'll be glad you did.
the rest is history.
The rest is did 4 years there, 5 years?
I did 4 years.
4 years there.
Yeah.
Got your bachelor's.
Got my bachelor's
teaching,
degree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, all this time, and that's what I think a lot of people don't understand about growing up in this area. I mean, so you've pretty much had, I don't want to say bad experiences, because I mean, hell,
there's been a lot of good experiences.
Yeah, I mean,
too.
we've had good experiences together.
Yes, we have.
And
yes, we have.
Well, it's certainly not a melting pot of diversity in Jackson. And that had to create some challenges. And were they just outwardly
they
racist
wasn't
to you, or was it like a look you'd see, or like,
snide
Well,
comments?
it's always a look you see, but the comments never was there, because if ever there was a comment, there was an altercation.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's what stops a lot of that.
That was the difference. But so you eventually just realize who your friends are,
Right. Right.
and you realize who you aren't, who they aren't, and you just go about your business, and you
Like
just
when you
stay away from things.
Like you played sports, obviously, and that kind of stuff, in football. Like, did you, like, when you were around the team, did you feel like the team was a place where you didn't have to worry about that kind of nonsense? Or, I mean,
in most cases, it depended on the team. But like I said, I played football for 4 years. I made the varsity basketball team my freshman year, and played my sophomore year in varsity basketball. And I also ran track and field my freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah.
But then I never played basketball or track and field my junior and senior year. I just continued to play football. And like I said, I had an opportunity to go other places. Coach Buckles wanted me to follow him when he went there. And, of course, I told you Coach Lutz had mentioned. And then, he wanted me to transfer to Ironton, come on down to Ironton, and play, because he knew there was a coaching change. But I had people say coaches can make a big difference in your life, and they can also hurt it in cases and stuff like that. And I felt, that by me not being able to play on both sides of the ball, that caused a lot of things too, because you couldn't get away with, we could fight then, because it'd usually take you 2.5, 3 hours to play a football game between Wellston and Waverly and stuff. And I don't know if you remember Waverly in 70? It would have been 7. Remember when you had to fight?
The big fight.
Where they emptied the stands?
Both stands emptied.
Well, see, we went down there, and that was the thing about it, and that was Coach Buckles. Okay. Because we had just drove the field, and it was 14-13, and I come over.
This is your sophomore year?
This was my sophomore year. I was a quarterback, and Coach Buckles.
You was a quarterback, okay.
Yeah, and Coach Buckles told me, he said, of course, we didn't. Mike Buckley was kicking. He was a good kicker, bless his soul. I like Mike. Mike was a good guy too. But Coach Buckles actually asked me. He said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Let's beat their ass right here."
Yeah.
And I said, "I want the ball." He said, "Okay." It's almost a thing from the later movies and stuff. And I told him I wanted the ball, and he called the play, and we beat him. I went in the end zone, turned around. Next thing I know, I'm getting pummeled.
Oh,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then
fans.
Oh, fans.
They came from everywhere.
They came from everywhere.
Yeah.
We had the police escorted around to the side of the building. They police escorted when we left around the side of the building, because that was the first time we beat Waverly.
This was right after the 9-0-1 year too.
Right after the 9-1 year.
Yeah. So that's hot.
Oh, it was crazy.
Hot.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And you talking, because you talk to them guys. They talk crap to you all year and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you're gonna see.
And fans are coming out in the field fighting you.
Jeff Duncan, bless his heart, ended up breaking. Well, Jeff Duncan, he ended up getting killed in an automobile crash his senior year. He was a Jackson Elementary boy.
Okay.
Offensive guard.
So he's coming to your rescue.
Defensive tackle.
Been your buddy all the time.
Oh, they was done, him and Buckley.
Yeah.
We was handling it, but we was getting back, and we was just trying to get people off of each other and stuff. And a coach from Waverly grabbed Mike. It was Shoemaker, Mr. Shoemaker.
Yeah.
He was
wound up being a state representative.
Yeah, not Merle, but Mike.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mike had Buckley, and Jeff ended up breaking 3 of his ribs. That night. And it was a brawl.
That's what I've heard. I've heard it was
crazy.
A flat ass brawl.
A friend of mine had that on video that I had seen, and I said, "Man."
Now, didn't the Jackson fans get involved as well?
A little bit,
yeah.
As we were coming off the field, they did.
Okay.
I'm sure mamas saw babies getting
it was
beat
crazy.
on by other mamas, and
it got crazy. It was like, all of a sudden these people just running out of the stands to fight us, and we're like,
And I'm sure you were dealing with racial slur after racial slur.
No, we didn't. Not that night. It wasn't too bad. During the game, but I played offense and defense then, so it was a little different. You
didn't have to be sidelined here in the stands.
Yeah.
You'd be on the field.
Yeah, you'd be out on the field, and and you're out there, and you can, when you're out on the field, you guys played. You can zone yourself out, and you can also. You can also do your business too.
Yeah, you control it. Take it.
Take it out on somebody.
Yeah.
But I don't know how many times I was bit, pinched.
Oh yeah.
Punched. And then they're like, you get up and you can't do anything, and I'm like, let me play some defense, man. So that's the issues that I had there. I felt I could have been, but I really felt basketball was my best sport.
I've always
I would have stayed with it.
I just think it's a true testament. Because I'll tell you this story. I've never told you this, but I had a real good friend. One of my best friends in college was a boy named Jason Whitehead, and he's up in Cleveland now. Still stay in pretty close contact with him, and he loved to fish. He was a black guy from. He was from like Lorain, Ohio. But he loved to fish, and I mean, I was a local boy kind of for OU. I was living at OU going to hockey, and the guy kept his boat at my house. So whenever I want to go fishing, I just take his boat. So one day I told Whitehead, I said, you want to go fishing? He said, yes. I brought him down to Lake Rupert. We're just tearing him up on that rock wall along 683. Yep. And I'd never seen this before. Okay, and it just really opened up my eyes, and I was like, wow, man. I mean, it was embarrassing. It was. I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if they were going to come, go get people. I mean, we're in a boat. I mean, you're a sitting duck. They drove up and down the road just screaming the N-word at him.
Yep.
And I remember looking at him and I said, man, Jason, I said, I'm so sorry. I said, I did not know this was going to happen. I promise you. And he goes, he was kind of like you in a way, because he was kind of like, Pudge, I don't know if I want to go down there.
Yeah.
And I was like, you'll be fine,
Nah, you do. You know, if you can avoid conflicts as the older you get, I mean, when you're young and cocky, I mean, let's do it. But the older you get and stuff, and either way, if things would happen, we're going to lose. I'm going to lose. I mean, I could be, it was like, and I never had a lot of problem with the students. And if you're talking about the Jackson High School,
right,
because there's a lot of good people in Jackson. Don't get me wrong.
And you were a great guy.
But it was a lot of the older people, the teachers and stuff, and things like that. It was just little things like that, and I mean, the variety of women. You used to. I remember 2 or 3 teachers tell me, well, you need to date your own kind. Well, hell, the only people I have here is cousins in this group. So.
that's like saying that in an Amish living room in Jackson.
Yeah. And I don't go there. So So I said
they would tell you that.
Oh yeah, I've had a few of them tell me that, and I just tell them,
that's got to be a sign of the
and I just tell them basically, you take care of you, I'll take care of me.
Yeah.
So, but you sort of space yourself from it. But then, they're in a position where a few of them were in a position where they could actually have an effect on your life, and that's when I was going back to the colleges and stuff. I had college recruiters that had contacted me and said, "Have you received this?" "No, I never received this." And I was like, they said, "You're serious?" And I said, "No, I haven't received this." And come find out, got to give a shout out to Mrs. Eubanks. Was really a good lady. June Eubanks was good, but probably my favorite teacher at the high school in my years there was Alice Smith.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Alice Smith was just
salt of the earth.
Yeah, and she was just she was straight up. She was there for everybody and how it should be and stuff. And in most cases, I mean, racism is there. It's alive and well.
I was going to ask you.
It's never gone anywhere, and
I almost feel like it's worse.
The last 4 or 5 years, it has gotten worse.
Well, I'd say, yeah.
And one of the worst things I've seen is this new concealed carry law that people have, because that just gives, and I don't mean this in any way,
gives you false confidence.
Well, that just gives a redneck, so to speak, if they have any type of difference of opinion with me, the right to shoot me, and then it's a stand your ground law, which is a bunch of shit to me. But but that's what it is. And I've had 2 incidents actually happen like that. Oh yeah, where a guy, I taught for 30 years at Uniota High School, and then I retired, and then I went back and taught 5 years at Pioneer. Well, taught really 1 year, and then I was an instructor assistant.
Which one's Pioneer? Adina?
Pioneer School. No, Pioneer's the school for the disabled.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The autism disabled. Best place I've ever worked. Best group of people I've ever worked with. If I'd have went there 40 years ago, I'd have never wasted my time in the public school system, because as a coach, you weren't given the opportunities. Once I taught, you wasn't given opportunities to coach and stuff, things like that. And you still look around. There's still not a lot of African-American coaches anywhere in the league or anything else. Benton County. They got a football coach.
They did. And did you see what they did? Did you see how he rallied that team this year?
He did a nice job.
He did a nice job.
He did. I've always said for years, Benton County had the best looking group of athletes I've seen.
Oh my!
They just weren't coached, and I don't mean that in reference to anybody that's been there, but they just weren't coached. But Benton County always had some stud looking kids, because we got 2 of the kids at Chillicothe that transferred in their senior year. Zach Ray was one of them, hell of a running back for us, and he's now a law enforcement officer in Chillicothe, and then John, I can't remember John's last name, big offensive defensive tackle. They come and did a great job for us at Chillicothe. And, you know, and I'm happy for a lot of the kids there because we, you know, it's just different. I mean, and people don't realize that.
So Kenny, touch on this if you don't mind. I mean, you came from a very strong family. I mean, from what I know of, a very tight-knit family.
I've always heard great.
Yeah. And so what message did your parents give you when you're going in and facing stuff like that?
Yeah, was you coming home telling them?
Yeah, what was their view on that, or how did they prep you for that?
Yeah, and
man?
Jackson in the 60s.
My dad was a guy. He always told us he said you treat people how you want to be treated. Mm-hmm. And he said people that don't treat you right, he said you space yourself from them. He said because you really don't have to be around them. Mm-hmm. You know, I can imagine the things they went through, you know, when I've talked to my grandmothers and things like that, some of the things they did that they had to go through. And he would always say, protect yourself. He said, you know, you have to watch out. He said, be around groups. You know, like you said, when you and the kid from Lorraine was out there fishing and the people was going by, you still worry about that.
That would happen today.
If you're by, well, it has happened.
Yeah.
You know, it's happened a bunch of times, you know, and things like that. And it's like that when you know, it's been like that around here for years, ever since I can remember.
Do you think it's just around, like as a guy from here? I mean, I know it's predominantly maybe
it's
everywhere,
isn't
it?
It's everywhere, but Southern Ohio's real bad about it.
Is it?
Yeah.
In general, it's always been that way. You know?
Yeah.
And
Man, that's like borderline. I mean, that's embarrassing.
Well, you know, and my mom, you know, she was just a lady. Matter of fact, the only 2 times my mother watched me play football, I got injured in both games.
Oh, Mom, did you say, Mom, stay away?
My mother. And she said, I'm not coming to watch you play anymore. It's like I told you. She told me a long time ago if I sang country music and played baseball, I'd been a rich man by now. But I didn't care for either, so therefore, you know.
I'm still going to get you on that country train. I'm going to get you on that country train.
I obviously do. I do some country now with the band.
You do a little Stapleton.
That I do now. I do some Stapleton and I do some... See, that tells you how much I know.
Well, didn't you say you just had a steel guitar though?
No, he doesn't play. He plays the guitar for
okay.
But he can play. This guy was at the Marquee. Kane Brown. I do a couple tunes by
Kane Brown was never to Marquee.
He was somewhere up here, I thought.
He might have been,
because I remember Dave McPherson was complaining about it. He said, out of all the country artists you can have, why would you bring in Kane Brown? or something like that?
He wasn't there.
Okay, maybe it wasn't. But I do a song by Kane Brown now, which is really good because my guitar player and I are also doing a duo act too. And then I got my band. I got probably, you know, that was the thing that basically kept me sane over the years because I started playing music when I was 14 years old.
Oh, I know. I've found some old relic pictures of you.
And Charlie Orender.
Yeah.
You know, rest his soul. But Charlie Orender was the one that got me playing music. And, you know, Charlie Orender was considered the bad boy, so to speak, everybody. And, of course, Dave, you know, and Ronnie Burton from Oak Hill, Bob Milliken, you know, and both, you know, all of them are gone. Well, Charlie, Bob, and Ronnie are gone. Dave's still living. Bud Cosby was in the band.
Construction projects? Think Geiger Brothers of Jackson. All your construction and engineering needs. Scott Massey, friend of the program. Look him up. 740-286-0800.
And Garen Hughes was in the band.
Okay.
So, you know, we had, and that's what we did. We played music. And, and I remember one time the biggest...
You and Donnie Jenkins?
Yeah, I played with Donnie later.
You know.
Bob
Eubanks?
Bob Farley. Brian Joseph.
Yeah, I have that picture.
You know, and, you know, and we just... So that was the thing that sort of kept me sane because it kept it around people that enjoyed music and people that enjoyed us, you know. But still you had some issues. But... We were always a pretty tight knit group, you know. That was the thing about it, you know.
I remember that was one of the, you know, after getting out of the bar business, there was several things that I was pretty proud of that I was able to do there. And that Valentine's Day party that we did that time,
was a good one, wasn't it?
That was. I mean, I don't give a damn what any of them say.
That was a good one.
That was a good one. They talk about like them old days, but that was as packed as it was then.
That was a good one.
Yep. I mean, that was. I think we sold. 330 tickets, something like that. I mean, just incredible.
Yeah. Well, you've probably played that place many times, though.
No, I've just played it one time.
Is that right?
Well, he played.
Did the New Year's Eve too.
Well, you did, but the lounge. You played the lounge a lot.
Yeah, we used to play the lounge.
That's what I was saying.
We used to play the lounge and used to play the youth center.
Oh, okay.
You know what I found?
Oak Hill Teen Center.
Yeah.
Wellston Center.
Yeah.
Speaking of times
God.
changing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just there again. I was really proud to bring you back because I've all my life I've heard Kenny Valentine. My dad being proud of the fact he being at Bainbridge Fall Festival leaves and standing in the back and waving at Kenny Valentine playing. And I mean I've heard this this name and I was I wanted to always bring back that style, like bring back those bands and do all that. But your bunch, they'll pay you to come. They'll pay you a ticket price.
Yep.
But
it's a different style.
they're going to drink water. Where the young kids, they're not going to pay a cover charge. And they're going to drink 30 beers.
Well, that's the reason. That's the reason I always enjoy playing places that don't have a TV or pool tables.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's people. Because people that comes to these shows appreciates music.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the kind of shows.
And your
I
brother
like to
David,
play.
once he hits the dance floor,
My cousin.
that's your cousin.
Yeah.
That's my cousin.
Okay.
That's Clayton's dad.
Yeah, Clayton. No, I graduated with Clayton.
Yes.
Well, I thought you were calling Coy David.
Coit David is my older brother.
Yeah.
Okay.
Coit David.
Yeah.
Coit David,
David Valentine graduated with you. David and Priscilla graduated with your brother Gary.
my dad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your dad.
Yeah.
And but Coit David is my older brother. See, my older brother was I have three brothers: Jimmy, James, Coit David, and Darwin.
Uh-huh.
And then I had four sisters.
Okay. 7 of you total.
8 of us.
8 of you total. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You. Man, I didn't realize your family was that big.
Yeah, I think David, Clayton's dad, I think he graduated with our dads.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
And then I remember during the alumni tournament, they wore his something on his initials or something on their jersey because during Desert Storm, he couldn't come back and play in the alumni tournament, and they wore his name on their jerseys or something. I remember that was.
And see, and that's another thing because I know my Uncle Pete.
Gillum Insurance, we've got lots of things happening at Gillum Insurance. We have moved to 228 Broadway. Right now, guys, with COVID and the pandemic going on, don't be the one caught without life insurance. So give us a call, 740-395-0357.
Who's Roger and Rusty Cosby, Bill
Dad.
Cosby's
Yep,
dad.
yep,
He was a veteran of all
Everything,
these
yep.
wars and stuff, and he never would accept his awards because, Uncle Pete said years ago when, they would take the white soldiers to these real nice hotels and stuff and give them their awards, and he said they'd take us someplace back, all the black soldiers out someplace. He said, hell, you would think they were taking you to kill you or something, to hang you and stuff, and he said, so he wouldn't accept his awards. And a shout out to Mark Haller, Coach Haller's
Paul.
Okay, Paul, not Mark.
Yeah, Mark's his brother.
But Paul's got that situated, and he had that real nice event for Uncle Pete.
Oh, okay.
Up here.
That was
Okay.
awesome.
You remember that
Yep,
where they
I
gave
do.
him that?
That was
Yeah.
awesome.
And then Uncle Pete he died
About a year ago, wasn't it?
almost a month and a half before his 101st birthday.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think. I mean, and I hope that times get better going forward. I hate to even hear these stories
Yeah,
about
it's kind of embarrassing.
It is, and it's
because,
gut-wrenching. I don't like it.
the way I look at it as somebody born and bred in Jackson, like your name, the Valentines. I mean, here it's like the community takes so much pride in what you guys did.
I don't know if you really know that or not, but the community that I grew up in,
Yeah.
and the surroundings,
legendary, man.
your family is looked at as top notch. I mean.
Yeah,
And
legendary.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was.
legend.
They really were
Legendary.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can remember being excited.
And that's that's what and then you hear that and you think, man,
Yeah.
I hate to hear that.
And you just wonder, like, if it was like that part about it, like if it was in that other world, like that maybe we were in, maybe we could do something about it. But it's like there's that another level. I don't want to say down, but like that level that's like you're just not going to get to. You're not going to
get to it.
way they're raised and everything else, man.
And that's what it's all about.
And
It's the way
today's
they're
media just pours gas on it.
Yeah. Today's media, well, it all depends on what media station that you
I don't listen to any of it. I don't listen to nothing anymore.
And that's a lot of things that I stopped doing too. I stopped getting on the social media thing because I seen so many guys that I went to school with since all this mess in the last 4 or 5 years went on, and I've seen some of the statements they made, and I'm like, Ah, man.
It'll change your thoughts on a person.
It changed my whole idea about different people that
I've
I
known
know.
my whole life. I'm like, oh,
it really
my God,
did.
you're an idiot.
Yeah.
It really did.
And I'm sure they're thinking the same thing
It
about
really
me.
did. And I'm sure they probably do. But, and that's fine.
Yeah, right.
You know, but usually...
All these years, you were a dumbass. I'd have never guessed that.
Yeah.
And and I'm sure I'm going to look at him a different way the next time I see him.
Absolutely.
Because for that simple reason, and
so-
I'm like...
Kenny, let's go here. All right. You live in Chillicothe now. Okay. And you've been there for a good while, correct? Obviously, there's a lot more diversity in Chillicothe.
There's more diversity, but you still have the same
problems
issues in
or not?
Chillicothe.
Okay,
You're going to have
that's-
the same problems pretty much everywhere you go, depending on where you go.
Okay.
That's
but
the difference.
so that's everywhere, you're saying. I mean,
It's pretty much going to be everywhere.
Okay.
It's everywhere. I mean, every place you go, you have to watch where you're going. You have to watch. I mean, seriously, when I'm driving, when I leave here tonight, I'm going to be aware of what's going on with me when I go home.
Yeah.
Because there's not a time that I come to Jackson, believe it or not, that I probably won't get stopped for some reason.
You told me that. You said it don't matter.
Unreal.
You said you've been pulled over here, coming
Same
in and out of
thing.
here for 30 years.
We were in Caddis, Ohio.
Cadmus or Caddis?
Caddis.
Where's Caddis at?
Way up north. Our band was in Caddis, Ohio, and we went in. We were the third band one night, and I'd never been to Caddis, Ohio. Cadiz is how you spell it.
Okay.
And I was like,
Yeah.
Cadiz. Well, the guy that went school there with that I work with, he pronounced it Caddis. Whatever. But anyway, first band played, second band played, and we never heard the first band. And we get there like midway through the second band playing, and they were so loud it was unreal. This place was going nuts. Okay, going nuts. I'm like, oh Jesus! I'm the only black dude in the place.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh Jesus, here we go. I said, where in the hell? Because the guitar player was the one who booked this job. He got paid well, and I was like, Jesus, did you even check out this place before we come up here? I mean, the place was nice. So I was met as I walked into the bar by the manager saying, God damn, I hope your band's better than these two bands that's played. And I said, you just got to give us a listen. He said, because I'm not paying these guys. And I was like, well, you're going to pay us. I said, I don't know you're going to pay us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but anyway, we ended up playing, and there was almost a war before we played. So a biker come in. This guy was Man Mountain, and he's sitting there, and he goes, and I'm sitting there, I'm walking up to set up, and he goes, this big tree trunk comes out in front of me, and he goes, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm the band. He said, oh, really? He said, well, I hope you're better than these first two bands that played. I said, well, you just have to sit and listen, don't you? So he goes, so we get started. We played about 2 songs. He gets up. This guy's like 6'6", 6'7", probably 380. I mean, he's huge. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. So he goes, he comes up, he goes, I'm going to make a phone call. He said, I like you guys. He didn't say boys.
Yeah.
He said, I like you guys. I said, well, good. I said, go ahead and call. So about that time, about 15, 20 minutes later, you heard Harley's just roar, just roaring in, and I'm like, okay, here we go. I know it's going to be a party now because the blues is in the house and we had it. And he's like, so we get finished playing. I mean, the place was partying. I mean, drinking, weed coming through the outside. I mean, you're sitting there.
I've never smelled it.
Oh, yeah. And people just coming through there, and we're sitting there, and I'm like, oh, my God. And so we get finished playing. So we walk out, and he goes, you guys going to play one more? And I said, we were scheduled to play until this such a time. He said, well, I'll give you some money. You play one more. I said, okay. So he threw some money at me and stuff, and we played another one. So we get finished playing that when we get finished and walked out, took his arm out, and he goes, you guys going to play? I said, goddamn, man. I said, every song we play, we come out of here, you're going to stick your arm out? And I said, you going to stop me? I said, so he threw some money down. He said, I want whatever this is worth. So long story short, I never drank a drop the whole night, never did anything the whole night. We pull out. Me and my wife get in the car. I seen the police officer sitting across the street as we pulled out. Now, you could have picked up anybody that walked out of that bar but me.
Yeah.
And you'd have had your quota.
Yeah.
So to speak. So he pulls in behind me, and I seen my drummer pull out, and I knew
Maybe that's why he pulled in behind you.
and I knew my
Didn't
drummer.
wanna work.
I knew my drummer was drinking, so I pulled in behind him and let him go but I knew he wasn't going to pull over. So anyway, we're going up the road, and here's this big ass dog laying in the road. It was dead. So I just sort of moved to the right, went around. The next thing I know, lights come on. So he pulls me over and he goes, "Where you coming from?" I said, "You know where I'm coming from." I said, "You just watch me walk to my car."
Yeah.
You know, just little stuff like that. And he goes, "Well, I seen you swerve to the right." I said, "We obviously seen that big ass dog in the road too, didn't we?"
Rottweiler.
And he goes, "Well, I need to see your license, registration, proof of insurance." I said, "Well, they're in the boot, officer." And I said, "I need to get in the boot in my car to get it." So of course he's shining his light all in the car, doing all this shit. So we go to the back. Of course he's on me and stuff, things like that. And I have my duffel bag, get my billfold out. Here it is. And I said, I'm standing in the back of the car telling him, I said, you could have picked out anybody else to come out of there. And I said, you'd have probably got him. Yeah. But I said, I haven't drank a drop, haven't done anything. So I said, so he in turn checks me out, gives me my stuff back. He said, well, you can head on down the road now. I said, that probably fucking disappoints you now, doesn't it? Yeah. That's what I told him. I mean, you can edit that too. When I told him, I said, that disappoints you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you can just tell that. And I said, and it was just... And that's the stuff you get all the time, with the exception in Columbus, Ohio. You don't get it as much in Columbus, Ohio, but anywhere down in this area,
So it's literally everything you do.
It's going to be 400 years, man. I mean, come on.
I was thinking, I was like, I was thinking last night after I talked to Dad, I was like, I was just thinking about, let's say you would have been in the line. Let's say your mom would have brought you and your 7 brothers and sisters into town, and you're standing at the line, getting your groceries, holding up the line or something, and I mean, just how easy probably somebody back then would have fired something off.
Pudge, I had one incident. My mother was at Four Winds Rest Home the last 11 years of her life, and I used to go visit my mother, bring her in town, get her something to eat and stuff. And I remember coming through town one day with my mother when they used to circle the cars, how they
cruising up there.
I was a cruiser.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, I loved it.
Why the hell?
It was like Facebook on a Friday night, man.
When I seen that, I was like, "Oh, you want to go to Jack's? What the hell would you do that for?"
Yeah,
I didn't understand it. But anyway, I'm bringing my mother down through town, and here all of a sudden I was so damn mad to the point. I mean, because my mother was in there, I took my mother back and come back. And I said, I'm going to clean this corner off, for no reason.
Yeah.
And I said, and that probably wouldn't have bothered me unless they touched me, unless I had my mother there. And my mother just looked at me and she goes, it's been that way forever.
Yeah.
And she said, you just take care of yourself. And she said, because my dad told me when I, got married, he said, you love this girl, you're going to treat her right. He said, but you have to realize there's going to be a lot of things. And my sons has faced a lot of that too, being biracial and stuff and things like that.
He's my age, isn't he? You close. I'm 40.
Both of my sons are older than you.
Not much, though, right?
Well, Todd's 46 here.
46 and 42, 43 probably.
42.
Yeah.
Troy's 42.
Yeah.
Todd's 40. Todd will be 46.
And I know they would have dealt with it in high school.
Oh, he's dealt with it here, coming in visiting his friends just recently, a few years ago, up here at the pub.
Really?
Yeah.
And Todd's not somebody that's going to back down. And I told him,
No.
I said, you got to be the smarter too. Sometimes it's good to step away before, especially with all this stuff that's going on now, because you just don't know who's going to pull a gun out, who's going to do something, to hurt somebody.
It's a different day, isn't it? Such a different
day.
I noticed that in the bar business. I'm sure you're seeing it too, because you're playing in a bunch of them.
I try to. Well, I limit myself.
You don't do a lot of bars.
I limit myself to the bars I play at.
Yeah.
Throughout the years, I know there's certain places that I just flat out refuse to play. I won't play. And
but the whole world, that whole industry's changed. And I don't know that it's for the good, because they talk about, and you've seen it. If anybody's seen this, you have. I really never even saw the days of just every place in town being packed, and there was a lot of fights though. There was a lot of mischief and a lot of outlaw stuff happening.
we never had and that's the thing we had. We used to play Memorial Building, Youth Center, and teen center, we'd pack them places every time we played. And it never was incidents in them places.
It's
because they came for the music. The spillover when you walk out, when you leave, and stuff, and things like that. You know, and that's the reason I never did hang around, go out, and hang around at the bar. I never did drink a whole lot because I've always, at least I'm going to be aware of going on, and that's one of the main things I have with guys that I have in my band. I tell them one time, I said, you're not going to be an alcoholic and be in this band.
Yeah,
simple as that. And because I want us to sound as good the first song as we do the last song.
And I don't care what anybody says. They don't.
You don't. And
you
plus,
get drunker.
And plus that adds to things too. And I like to be aware of things. Another thing my dad told me, always be aware of your surroundings. And if you're impaired in any way, you're not going to be aware of them. And, and that's when
they go out the window.
And
with impairment.
You think everything is cool and stuff like that, and then the next thing you know.
So I mean, think about this. So your whole life, I mean, I don't know how to say this, but I mean, we've never had to, like, think of that. Like, we've never had this. Like, it sounds like from just talking to you and knowing you, there's a portion of you that is on guard all the time.
You got to be.
I
think as an African American in general, you have to be. Depending on, again, it's depending on where you're at, what your surroundings are, and you need to be aware of that.
Have you gotten to the point though where you just laugh about it?
I don't think I ever laugh about it.
I don't mean, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't think I ever laugh.
Where you just
about
shrug it off, is what I'm saying.
I just think I'd be more aware. If that's a correct answer to, that's more of a correct answer to me. I'm more aware of what's going on around me and stuff. And if I see things that I know that's uncomfortable with, I'm going to separate myself from that.
Yeah.
Just simple as that. I'm not going to wait until the after hours till a crowd leaves and stuff, or I'm not going to go to this party that I don't know nobody or anything like that, because you just don't know,
Yeah.
And,
just staying aware.
And and aware of your surroundings.
Well, and when you're coming up against somebody that's ignorant or whatever word
it's
you want to
ignorance.
use,
it's ignorance.
It's really not even worth trying to convince them or talk to them about anything. I mean,
I think a lot of them, I don't think they're trying to. I don't think they even know what they're doing.
Well,
I think they're just using that. That's easy. I mean, it's no different than work ethic. It's just that's the easy thing to do. It's easy to call guys like us fat ass.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people. I think that a lot of people don't know any better, man. I mean, that's all they've grown up with language like that being acceptable in their household. I mean,
what's the first thing they go to? It's like I said, it's how many times has somebody said, "Hey, fat ass," or and it's like, okay, well, is that all you got? Like, I mean, you're going to come a little harder than that, dude. I'm a fat ginger at that. You got all kinds of options in this box. So,
but in the same sense, like I said, there's a lot of good people out. There's a lot of good people, black, white, or whatever minority you are, and then there's a lot of people that's just has an attitude about you just for
they got attitudes.
How much money you got? Where you live?
Right.
What's the color of your skin and stuff like that? What's the family?
There's some unhappy sons of bitches.
Yeah, and I'm like, if I have to be that unhappy, I'm not going to be around you.
Yeah,
and that's the thing.
What do you think would help it? Like, what do you like as my friend? What would you say? Would help this whole situation? Like, if somebody in Jackson is listening to this, or
I don't know. I don't think.
Can it be helped?
I don't think it's ever going to be helped. Not in my lifetime. I hope in my grandchildren's lifetime times change, but I've seen it's gotten better, but
I thought it was getting better for a second, and that George Floyd incident happened, and I thought it just skyrocketed.
I think a lot of it starts at home. People got to break the cycle at home.
And I figured that would happen with like our generation.
That's the first one. So. That's the first one that was filmed. How many times did that happen before they started putting cameras?
So
and they talk about the law. What do you call defund the police and stuff? I'm a firm believer in the police. But don't try to tell me that every policeman is a good guy. That's like you trying to tell me every human being is a good guy. That's a bunch of bullshit. Because I know better than that.
Not every football coach is a good guy.
Not every football coach is a good guy in general.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So, but before you hire people in these positions that has a say-so in my life, there needs to be some more checking of things. You know,
vetting
some more background checks, some more vetting and stuff and things like that. Because if I got a person that's got such and such up on his Facebook page, I'm definitely not going to put a gun in his goddamn hand, you know?
Right.
What it is, because he already has an attitude about me in general.
Yeah.
You know, for no reason. But like I said, I was going to work that morning, and we had a bis match day at Pioneer. Okay? So I walk into the little BP store at the end before I get on the highway, right on High Street there, right across from the subway, because I'm 5 miles from work. I walk in, there was this little dude about your size, Pudge, you know.
Little guy.
And he
Never
goes,
been referred to as little guy in my life.
and I walk by, and he goes, nice outfit. And I never thought anything. I just looked at him and kept walking. So I went back and got me a coffee and stuff, pack a gum, come back in line. He was, nice outfit. And I looked at him, I said, you talking to me?
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, I'm talking to you. I said, well, there's a reason why I'm dressed like this. I said, you obviously didn't look in the mirror before you left the house this morning, you know, dressed like you are. His first move, you got a problem with that?
Really?
Oh, my.
I said, let's step outside without that. And I said,
Yeah.
and we'll discuss the problem. And by that time, the lady at the boss at the place said, oh, no. She said, no, you're out of here. And this guy, and she said, no. She said, this is not going to happen. She said, this guy never did anything to you.
Yeah.
He was talking to this other guy, and he was just a little old redneck in there. Just, I mean, at 7:30 in the morning, he's looking for some kind of confrontation.
goodness.
And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he walks out and gets in his truck. She takes his license plate number. Okay, and all of this. So a week later, I had forgotten about it. I was so damn mad that night. That morning, I was ready to just follow him. Let's do our thing. But then, again, you come to your senses, so to speak.
24-hour
what
rule's a
environment
good
you're
thing.
getting into.
Yeah.
So anyway, and so I go into the store like a week later, and the young lady says, did you ever get contacted? I said, about what? She goes, I had completely not even thought about it. She goes, about that incident happening here. She said, I reported that. Nobody's talked to me right to this day. Now, if the roles would have been reversed, it's a different story. And I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. They can say what they want to. And I don't have a prejudice bone in my body.
Yeah.
You know, but I know it's out there. It's always going to be out there. And certain areas, you have to be aware. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You always do, because I like breathing. I like waking up every morning and stuff. And I'm thankful, blessed to be here this day. And I'm almost 67 years old. So that's the difference and stuff. So I don't want no hassles with people. I just want to go out and do my thing with my friends and stuff. Go about my business when I'm done. But you got certain people that just come in a place just.
Do you look at it as like kind of a blessing? I know you coached sports for a long time. Did that a lot. Was it? Did you like to kind of help and talk to your players?
Always did. Still do.
About
Still do.
About issues like that, so that it's in the front of their mind.
Players,
and
students.
I mean, hey, your white players as well as
Players, students, everything. Players,
Yeah.
students, everything. I've always done it. In my years of teaching, I always do that. We was out at school today doing a Black History Month thing, and I was like with our autism kids, special needs kids, all the special needs kids. And I was thinking to myself, here we are sitting here doing this with these kids, but most of your public schools ain't doing it because they don't want you to hear what's going on, And I sat back and, when I would listen to all this stuff and look at all these things that's happened and stuff, and there's a lot of things you've seen in the last year or two that you never heard of. I know you never heard in the history books at Jackson High School.
Oh,
I didn't.
No, yeah. I don't think we even learned did we probably learned Martin Luther King.
Oh yeah, that kind of, but I mean,
But I don't think Malcolm X or any of that stuff was taught back in.
learned what his name was.
Yeah, I don't
you didn't know nothing about him,
but I
'cause they
don't know a
didn't
whole
do
lot
that.
about George Washington.
well,
so
I think
And who would care about that?
yeah, well, you know what I'm saying. I mean, I wasn't paying attention to much.
I mean, I think what you deal with is like the schools. I mean, it's like it's taboo to get up there and talk about stuff like that.
I was just
or
sitting here-
or like they're nervous about it. But man, that's the only solution there is out there is for people to talk about it.
But again,
I mean, do you think, or is that
you have to
pushing
talk.
uphill?
You have
I mean,
to talk. You have to talk about it, Chad. But you have
Yeah.
to realize that some of the people that's in charge of things also aren't
Yeah,
good people
right.
in most
Yeah,
cases
right,
too.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
you know, I was just
they don't want to push uphill.
And I hate to be honest, but some people may feel that. Some people that's in positions may feel the same way that this butt wipe does that's over here.
Yeah,
you know?
you never know. Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing. So you don't know. Again, you have to be aware of your surroundings. You have to know the people you're around and stuff and things like that. And that's what I've, over the years, I think I have probably 5 really, really good friends. Maybe not that many now because I know 2 of them's gone. But, and I mean, what I mean by a good friend is somebody that if I had something serious going on with me right now, I could call him at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, I need you. He's going to be there. That's the difference. Now, that's sad that I'm almost 67 years old and I got 3 people I could depend on to do that. That's what's even more sad, And with me, I've always tried, it's like my dad always said, treat people how you want to be treated and, hopefully you'll get a good return. No better family than the Gillums. We stayed right up the hill and Mr. and Mrs. Gillum, Murdy, and I just loved them. And she would, because Gary and I were still best of friends, because Gary and I are a day apart.
Other Gary.
Yeah, the other Gary.
Other Gary.
Yeah, my great uncle.
Yeah, Gary Gillum.
That's your great
Yeah,
uncle.
good man.
Yep.
And all them guys, but we were born and raised around these guys. They know, Now, the difference is, these guys would say, oh, you're your friends. And that's the thing, what I tell the kids now. I said, I used to tell my boys, you don't bring anybody in our house to eat at our table if you can't go to their house and eat. And I said, now that's something different if the kid's hungry.
Yeah.
Because I'm never going to turn down. If I got food and a kid's hungry or a child's hungry, I don't care. I won't eat for them to eat. But I would tell my kids, you don't bring anybody in this house and sit at our table and eat, get in our refrigerator. And not that I want my kids going to someone else's house getting in the refrigerator. But in other words, if you can't go to their house and eat, they're not going to sit at our house and eat. Yeah. And that's just how it is. Now, that's when you check, and that's when you know it's coming from. And the fruit don't fall too far from the tree. It never has, and that's the difference. And that's the difference in families, and that's how I tell people to judge people now. And there's still some kids. They'll hang out when the parents ain't there, but when the parents come in, a lot of kids have to leave. It's gotten a whole lot different these days because kids are making a difference.
Yes, they are.
The kids are making a difference. The kids don't care who you are. They don't care what color you are. They don't care what this is or what's that.
People talk about the children and the kids this and they're not this and anymore and blah, blah, blah. I'll tell you what. I know you're a dad. You have a young child. I have a young child, and you're still in the school system. And
I got 4 grandchildren,
and you have 4. And I'm telling you what, you'll never find sweeter people in all your life than these kids right now.
Kids would get that. What they say the 3 things that tell you the truth:
a drunk,
a kid, and leggings.
Yeah. Boy, man, I've been buying Mindy some leggings. She's had me tore up, kidding. I was sitting here thinking, Chad and I's wives are teachers.
Better cut that.
We wouldn't cut that from that.
No. I was sitting here thinking, Chad and I's wife's teachers, and you're a teacher. And, the public school system, this is a whole nother podcast that we might have to do round.
If I had it all do over again, I wouldn't have been a teacher.
Well, people are expecting the public school system to be like, the introduction into Yale or and I'm not saying it can't be,
right.
But I'm saying you're basically getting the Dollar General version of education. I mean, you're getting the run of the mill.
Depending on where you are.
Well, it's not. I mean, you can have some great teachers, but your curriculum, correct me if I'm wrong, it's designed to where, like, if I move my family to, Grove City tomorrow and my son enrolls in second grade there, he's going to jump in pretty close to where he left Jackson on the books. So, like, that's supposed to be the same curriculum, right?
It's supposed to be.
Okay. So I was just sitting here thinking. So, I mean, you're getting a pretty stripped down model to make it work for every single student, My buddy Jason Snyder, he's over at Annapolis right now, and his family, he's got his daughter enrolled in a private school. It might cost, I don't know. I'm just throwing a number
My granddaughter's
out there.
in a private school.
And I mean, you're talking $30,000 a year in Annapolis, and I don't know what your granddaughter. And it's like, well, Jason, he's like, but my public schools is not Jackson or Vinton County or Chillicothe. He's like, we don't know the teachers, nor will we ever in that public school system. He's like, it's just different. And I was just sitting here thinking, like, man, if you really wanted to, like, open up your brain and get some kid fired up, well, the way to do that is you talk about all these topics. Now, I'm not, and it's almost like race and religion have almost became their own, like, class. Because they've taken Jesus' picture out of the school. We went through that a few years ago. They've taken, to my knowledge, prayer and everything out of the school, right?
I think so.
Do they still pledge allegiance? I think they do. They still pledge allegiance. What else have they taken out?
I don't know. I'm not really up to
I know
speed.
religion was I'm not either, but I know religion was one of them. But I mean, it's almost like they should start putting things like
now,
religion.
do you believe in the Star Spangled Banner? Do you know the real Star Spangled Banner?
Well, I hate to open my mouth right now. I'm afraid you're going to embarrass me.
No, I'm not going to embarrass you. I just want you to do some history on the Star Spangled Banner.
On the Star Spangled Banner,
and
okay.
Because I stand with Colin Kaepernick.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't.
Okay.
And
well, explain to me what he even did. I wasn't an NFL fan.
Kneeled.
At that time. He kneeled
He
for the
because
national
the
anthem.
injustices of policemen against blacks.
Okay.
And that's what it was. And then he's been basically barred from the league, and but you don't say anything for anyone else that does this and all these owners. The professional leagues is all about it's almost like a plantation in professional sports, especially football, more than anything, and that's why, if some of these guys would stand up, because you got 78% of the NFL is African American, but then you got one coach, maybe two. It's two now.
Two, yeah.
I saw that's the new thing.
So it's just and that's something and it's just these. But you look at these owners, that's why it's not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going.
Are they going to force that?
They've tried. I mean, the Rooney Rule's there, but I mean, it's just always been kind of a flimsy.
The Rooney Rule's been there ever since Mike Tomlinson was hired. So you're talking about forever. 16, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen.
Well, I guess I don't know how you could. I guess like the American
You can't
Patriot.
really force that, but don't put qualifications. Because if I've got tons of experience and you have none, don't tell me they hired you because of me, because of qualifications, because that's bullshit. Because all you got to do is look at us, look at the difference, and that's all it is.
Yeah.
And that's all it is in a lot of places. That's the main thing. They cover things up with religion, because you've played music, you've seen guys that's chasing every skirt in the bar on a Friday and Saturday night, and then you go to church on Sunday, they're dressed up praising the Lord.
In the church band. Most of the musicians
Now,
you correct
you know
me,
that.
you correct me if I'm wrong. Most of the musicians I ever played with learned to play in church. Still did.
Well, we've had several on the show that say that.
And I'm like, you sitting bunch of.
So that's just what I'm saying. So much for that.
I was always,
like I said, there's good people everywhere, and racism is everywhere. Jackson, Chillicothe, it don't matter where you go, it's everywhere. And so we can go on to the GOAT real quick. My two.
Well, no, we haven't went on to we'll do that on the live.
Okay.
That goes to the live. So, are we ready to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think we're close. You got anything else, Kenny?
Oh, that was an hour and 15, wasn't it? An hour?
we're good.
Yeah, just shy of an hour 15.
Just shy of an hour and 15.
Right on the nose.
Hey, I don't have anything to cheers, but thank you, my friend. I've always enjoyed all of our visits.
Yeah.
So, hey, wait,
Appreciate it, guys.
Where can they catch your band?
We're going to be March the 12th. We're in. We're doing a Legion in Chillicothe.
Okay.
I'm gonna check with 601 and Marquette because I want to get back here. April the 9th we're at the Docket Water.
What about your Facebook page? Where can they?
Facebook page. I got a website, www.kennyvalentine.band, and it's got our schedule
and what's the band name on Facebook?
kennyvalentine.band.
Kenny Valentine dot band on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. All right. Because, I went to tag you in that thing today, and you've got a couple. One of them you hadn't been active on in a while.
No, it's www. It's a new one. It's got all my new band members and everything. Cool. And that's another thing, a shout out. I got probably I played with some pretty good musicians.
Yeah.
This is probably the best group of musicians I've ever played with.
I know the guy that played with you at the Stockroom passed with COVID, I think.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry about that.
Daryl Jumper.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And
man, definitely gone too soon.
Yep.
But do you want to shout out your members right now?
Shout out my members too, and the members of my band, the new Kenny Valentine band. I got Nevada Hard, who plays guitar. He's absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. Tom Martin's on bass, and Tom Martin used to play with Ricky Jean Hall and the Goods, and I played music with Tom Martin when I was 18, 19 years old.
Okay.
So years ago. Tim Davis is my keyboard player.
Okay.
Tim Davis is 31 European tours and stuff. He was a tour manager for the Ink Spots for like 16 years, just a killer keyboard player. And Mike Newman is my drummer. He was the band director at Portsmouth West for years.
Okay.
Huh. So I have all session musicians.
All session guys.
And I tell you, I've never had a group of guys that wanted to practice. Out of all the years I've played, and these guys
want to practice.
They practice.
Yeah.
And
how often do you guys practice?
We usually practice. We try to practice once every other week and stuff, depending on. We usually base it on a Friday. And stuff and things like that. But the good things about our practice is that we know what we're doing. It's not a bunch of it's not a party anymore.
Yeah.
For practice.
That was hard.
And stuff.
That was a hard time.
That was, and because I remember when we used to practice and stuff, put a party with it and stuff. Jesus.
You don't get much done.
It was done. Yeah. You didn't get much done. But, this group of guys here, these are the type of guys, Pudge, where I could, if we were performing tomorrow, I could send a song to them and say, I want to play this tomorrow. They said, well, the arrangement of the vocals. Yep. If I stepped in tomorrow and said, okay, let's kick this up, they could play it. They are awesome. Tom used to run. Now you guys are too young for this, though. I keep thinking that. Yeah, you're way too young for this. Because the youngest guy,
souls.
Well, the youngest guy in my band is me.
Oh, okay.
And I'll be 67.
Is it getting hard?
No, not really. With these guys, it probably would have been.
Because you're moving. I mean, you're a dancer. You're a front man.
Yeah, because if I wouldn't, I've slowed down a lot of that since then. I just sort of sit back and sing a little bit now. And, it's amazing that you say that because, I was doing that for a while, and I was waking up the next morning and shitting my legs.
Felt like you just played a game.
Felt like I just got beat. And I was like, man, what did I do last night? And you're just dancing. Because I'm not a drinker or anything and stuff like that. And I was like, but, these guys are just, it's, really, I probably wouldn't have done it if Nevada Hart hadn't decided because Tom moved back then.
I used to book him and Ashley at the bar all the time. Ashley Huffer.
Now, me and him's doing that now.
Okay.
We're doing, and he's like,
that's a good fit for him.
And he's like, man, why didn't? And he's never played this music, and he's loving it.
Yeah, I bet he is. He's a guitar virtuoso.
He goes, man, where you been? He said, why didn't I meet you 45 years ago?
I figured you'd have known him.
Didn't know him. He ran sound for us one night. He ran sound for my old band one night.
Okay.
And he told me, he said, after it was over, he said, man, what a band. And he goes, I'd like to play this. And he was the first one I thought about when Mark, my guitar player, because my sax player moved to Fort, John Kirk, who was my sax player in the Slater Brothers, he moved to Florida, him and his wife. Mark decided not to play. Dave's in Las Vegas. Brian and Jim's in Athens, doing whatever they're doing. And after my illness, I really wanted to play. I didn't want to stop from COVID and, my cancer that I had and stuff and things like that. So, I called Tom. Tom said, yeah, I'm ready. And I said, I got to find a guitar player. And I didn't just want to find any guitar player, I mean, there's a lot of guitar players can play, but I wanted a guitar player, number one, you could get along with and like the style of music.
Isn't it so hard to keep a band?
It's very hard. But, and that's what Sam Stevens complimented me more than anything. Because, me and the Slater Brothers were together for 32 years.
Oh, shit.
Oh, my.
That's a long time.
32 years.
Now, how many of you was there? 5?
There's 5 of us.
5 of you? That's amazing. That's amazing.
And everybody, Sam Stevens compliment, he's a musician from Point Pleasant. He's in Florida now playing. He said, man, that's granted enough. He said, I've never seen And he would sit in with us.
Yeah.
Every now and then, like whenever I didn't have somebody, you know, Sam knew things, I'd call him. Oh, I loved it. He sat in with us at the Marquee the last time we played there. He was a sax player and a keyboard player. And he goes, and this is crazy. And if he wasn't moving, because he had just retired and was moving, he said, if I wasn't moving, he said, I'd play with you.
Yeah.
So, and I just happened to find, but without Nevada, it wouldn't have.
How old's Nevada?
Nevada's a month older than me. He'll be 67 in.
I think it's great you guys are doing it, man, because I tell you, I
love it.
Now, I think I'm in, maybe you can help me out with this. Maybe this is an after-show topic, but I think I'm at one of those points in my life where it's time for me to set it down for a minute.
You could do that.
And be a dad.
You got a child. You got a young child. He's active in sports and stuff and things like that.
You know, and he's playing now. And he's doing pretty good at it. So I think I don't know. I doubt I ever go back to playing bars. Don't miss that at all. I still will play probably maybe 2 or 3 festivals a year. I'm struggling to stay sharp enough without gigging 50 times a year.
Got to play.
To go play a show, you know. So I mean, you know, I've had people say, "Hey, why don't you come play? You know, I want you to do a couple hours." I don't know that I could right now. And there was a day I could probably do 6.
Yeah.
Especially if it's just, and I'm finding that out with Nevada, just me and him. I mean, it's hard, and we're just throwing out songs.
Oh, it's you're a jukebox.
And he's like, I throw out this one, and he's like, "Man, you know that song?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "And you know this song
but
too?"
There's 3 other guys there that aren't going to take up 10 seconds each time they do it, and that catches you, you know, whenever you're doing it.
And that's the reason we're working out shows and stuff to do it, and we got a nice show because he can play, and he told me, he said, "Man, you can sing anything, but we're doing some rock, we're doing some country. Of course, my bass is rhythm and blues, and we also got some big band stuff that we're doing. You know,
cool.
Have you ever heard Kenny?
Oh yeah.
Have you?
Yep.
I mean, they used to rock it you were the first band that we had at there New Year's Eve. So we had that New Year's Eve show. I mean, we had just opened, but it was always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. So
thanks for coming in, Ken.
Yep,
all right, guys.
Tune in. See you. Oh, hey, and check out our website, ChubbyBartenders.com.